The courtroom feels colder than usual, as if even the air holds its breath. People in the gallery whisper to each other, shifting in their chairs as if they feel a storm is coming. None of them know just how explosive this day is about to be. Meri walks inside slowly, clutching a thin envelope like it contains the last piece of her heart. Her footsteps echo down the aisle, each one reminding her that she is walking into a battlefield she never thought she'd be a part of. She stops beside the plaintiff's table. Her fingers quiver for just one moment before she wills them to steady. She knows Kody is staring at her. She feels his gaze like a heat she doesn't want near her anymore. She raises her eyes at last, and their gazes lock. And for the first time in years, he is the one who seems terrified. Robyn sits beside him, shoulders curled inward, clutching tissues already damp. Her makeup is perfectly applied, but fear sits behind her eyes. She leans in to try and whisper something to Kody, who pointedly ignores her, too focused on the envelope held in Meri's hand. He knows she didn't come empty-handed. He knows she came with something he can't control. Christine and Janelle sit behind Meri, no longer enemies, but not quite allies either. Their faces reflect a mix of concern, curiosity, and something deeper: exhaustion. Years of chaos, heartbreak, broken promises, all of it has led to this single room. The bailiff calls the court to order. The judge enters. Judge Harrington, a woman with a sharp gaze and a reputation for smelling lies before the liar even opens their mouth. She takes her seat, adjusting her glasses, looking down at her notes before glancing back at the parties. "Mrs. Brown," she says to Meri, "are you ready to go forward with your opening evidence?" Meri swallows hard. "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice is soft, yet strong enough to pierce through the silence. She takes a step forward, holding the envelope in both hands. For a moment, she hesitates, not out of doubt, but because she realizes that this will be the moment that will make all the difference, beyond which there can be no retreat. She puts the envelope on the judge's bench. He opened it slowly, drawing out the documents inside. The soft rustle of paper was the only sound in the room. Kody tenses. Robyn squeezes his arm. Christine leans forward. Janelle holds her breath. The judge scans the first page, her eyebrows lifting subtly, a reaction she clearly didn't expect to have this early in the hearing. She flips to the second page, then the third. Her face goes from neutral curiosity to something much darker: concern. "Mrs. Brown," the judge slowly says, "these are DNA reports." Meri nods. "Yes, Your Honor." "And these," says the judge, holding up another sheet, "are copies of the reports submitted by Mr. Brown weeks ago." Again, Meri nods. The judge's eyes narrow to a blade's edge. "These do not match." A gasp rolls through the gallery, like a small wave. Even Christine and Janelle exchange confused, startled glances. Kody shoots up from his seat. "Your Honor, this is ridiculous. She's trying to twist something innocent into a conspiracy." But the judge raises her hand. "Mr. Brown, sit down." For the second time that morning, Kody is forced into silence. Meri takes a step closer to the bench. Her voice steadies, is firmer, clearer. "Your Honor, for years I kept quiet. I tried to protect a family that wasn't protecting me. But there comes a point where silence becomes the same as lying. I won't lie anymore." Robyn's voice cracks. "Meri, please, don't do this." Meri turns to her, her eyes soft but unyielding. "Robyn, I spent so long defending you, believing you. But I can't protect you from the truth." The judge clears her throat. Mrs. Brown, please explain to the court what you are alleging. Meri takes a deep breath. Her hands fold together in front of her, but her voice doesn't shake this time. I am alleging that the documents Kody submitted to this court were altered. That someone changed the results. That the DNA report he presented is not the original. Murmurs explode across the courtroom. Robyn covers her mouth. Christine whispers, "Oh my God," under her breath. Janelle's jaw tightens in realization, like puzzle pieces she ignored for years suddenly snap into place. Kody slams his hand on the table. That is a lie. That is, Mr. Brown, the judge snaps. You will remain silent unless addressed. Kody's mouth clamps shut, and his face goes bright red. But behind his eyes, rage burns. The judge turns to the back of the room. Bring in Dr. Haldon. The doors open. A man in a crisp grey suit walks in, carrying a thick binder. Calm, poised, methodical, the kind of expert who rarely speaks unless every word is backed by undeniable evidence. He approaches the stand and is sworn in. State your name, says the judge. My name is Dr. Reese Haldon, forensic geneticist. And did you review both sets of DNA documents submitted to this court? Yes, Your Honor, he says. I conducted a full comparison. Every detail, every timestamp, every signature. The judge leans forward. Tell the court what you found. Dr. Haldon opens his binder. The documents Mrs. Brown submitted match the original lab results obtained directly from the testing facility. The documents submitted by Mr. Brown do not. A collective gasp breaks through the room. Robyn drops her tissue. Christine grips the edge of her seat. Janelle closes her eyes. Meri stands perfectly still. Her breathing is low, but steady. Kody's fists clench so tightly his knuckles turn white. The signatures, Dr. Haldon continues, are mismatched. The timestamp was edited. The ink is layered, which means someone wrote over the original copy, and the test result has been modified. The judge's face stiffens. Are you telling me the outcome was manipulated? Yes, Your Honor, Dr. Haldon responds. Someone tampered with them. A sudden wave of noise erupts. Reporters scribbling, spectators whispering, a woman in the back row covering her mouth as if she just watched a crime scene reveal. The judge bangs her gavel. Order, order. Silence resumes. Kody's voice is hoarse as he finally speaks up. Your Honor, this is a setup. This is my ex-wife trying to punish me. The judge slams the gavel again. One more outburst and you will be removed from this courtroom. Kody freezes. Meri steps forward. Your Honor, this is only the beginning. The altered DNA reports. They were meant to hide something. Something Kody and Robyn never wanted anyone to know. Robyn shakes her head violently. Meri, stop. Please stop. Christine, in a whisper, asks Janelle, hide what? What were they trying to hide? The bailiff seizes him at once. The courtroom erupts into chaos. The judge screams over the noise, gavel slamming repeatedly. This court is in recess now. The courtroom doors thudded shut with a weight that echoed through the polished wooden walls, making the air feel even heavier than before. Everyone inside sensed it, the calm before a storm that had been building for years. The judge adjusted her glasses. Kody tried to look composed, but failed miserably, and Robyn clung to her tissue like it was her last lifeline. And then Meri walked back to the witness stand. But this time, she wasn't alone. 3 folders, thick, tabbed, labeled, confidential. She set them down with a slow, deliberate motion. The sound of the stack hitting wood felt like a bomb going off. Janelle and Christine exchanged a look, relief and fear, because whatever Meri had dug up, it wasn't just going to expose the truth. It was going to burn it into the courtroom floor. "Mrs. Brown," said the judge calmly, "you may continue." Meri blinked once, steadying herself. But behind her calm, her heart thundered. Years of betrayal. Years of lies. Years of being sidelined, dismissed, and replaced. She wasn't the quiet, compliant first wife anymore. This time, she had evidence, and she had a voice. "Your Honor," she began, her words tight but controlled. "What I'm about to present explains everything. Kody's financial manipulation, Robyn's hidden role in restructuring our assets, and the real reason our family fell apart." Across the courtroom, Kody shifted in his seat, his jaw tightening so hard the muscle twitched. He whispered something under his breath. Robyn placed a hand on his arm, supportive on the surface, but underneath, her fingers trembled. Meri opened the first folder. Inside, receipts, wire transfers, investment documents. Not recent ones, but from years ago. Back when the show was at its peak and the money was flowing like a river through the Brown family household. "Let's start with the accounts," Meri said, looking up at the judge. "These are transfers Kody approved without the consent of the wives, totaling nearly $1.3 million. The courtroom gasped. Even the bailiff raised an eyebrow. Robyn immediately shook her head. "That's not true," she whispered loudly to Kody. "She's twisting." "The documents are authenticated," Meri snapped before she could finish. "Not by me, but by a forensic accountant." Christine was horrified and covered her mouth. Janelle finally closed her eyes, almost as though the last piece of a horrible puzzle had fallen into place. Kody leaned forward. "You're overreacting, Meri," he said, forcing a dismissive laugh. "You don't understand how business works." "No," she said sharply. "You never wanted us to understand." Robyn shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her face reddening. Meri continued. "These transfers weren't made for the family. They were moved into a private trust. One managed solely by Kody and Robyn. Is that true, Mr. Brown?" Kody swallowed hard. "It was for tax purposes," he lied. Meri slid the second folder across the judge's bench. Inside were emails, dozens of them, between Kody and a financial advisor. Messages where Robyn was CC'd time and again, where major decisions were made behind closed doors, where the other wives were strategically cut out. One email garnered everyone's attention. The courtroom fell silent. Christine's face shattered. Janelle's hands shook. Even the judge took a slow, deep breath. "Is that your email, Mr. Brown?" asked the judge. Kody's face hardened. "Someone hacked." "Your Honor," Meri interrupted. "These were legally retrieved through subpoena." The judge nodded. "Then they will be considered valid evidence." Robyn whispered urgently, "Kody, say something." But he sat still, trapped within the walls he had built. Then Meri opened the third folder. It was thinner, but somehow heavier. "This," she said quietly, "is the part that broke our family more than anything." The judge leaned forward. The audience held their breath. Photos, notes, a timeline. Not of money, but of emotional manipulation. The binder chronicled years of favoritism, double standards, late-night meetings, and private discussions that excluded the other wives. It showed moments where Kody's decisions aligned perfectly with Robyn's requests, even when those decisions tore the family apart. In the middle was a handwritten note, in Kody's handwriting, and it was dated 3 months prior to the family publicly announcing their split. Christine uttered a muffled sob. Janelle looked like she was about to vomit. The judge rubbed her forehead. "Mr. Brown, this is deeply concerning." Robyn suddenly stood up. "This is being twisted. You don't understand what our family went through. Kody had to make hard choices. Sometimes people have to be left behind for progress. Her voice cracked, not out of sorrow, but out of panic. Meri turned her gaze toward her. Left behind, or removed. The silence was deafening. Robyn sank back into the seat. Meri took a deep breath, stealing her tone. For years, I thought I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, that I didn't try hard enough. But the truth is, the plan was never to fix the family. It was to isolate us, to consolidate everything around Kody and Robyn, and to erase the rest of us when we no longer served their purpose. The judge nodded sympathetically. Mrs. Brown, please continue. Meri took a shaky breath. This isn't just about betrayal. This is about legal accountability. Because those funds, that $1.3 million, belonged to all of us. And I will no longer stay quiet. Judge Harris looked at Kody. What do you have to say for yourself? Kody finally stood up, but his confidence, which he once wore as armor, was gone. I did what I thought best, he muttered. For who? Meri asked quietly. For your family, or for Robyn? Everyone waited. He didn't answer. Not because he didn't know, but because he knew the answer would destroy him even further. The judge exhaled. Mr. Brown, you are going to need legal counsel for the next stage. Mrs. Brown, your evidence will be reviewed, and additional hearings will be set. The courtroom buzzed, reporters scribbled, cameras clicked. But Meri wasn't done. She stepped closer to the stand, her hands clenching its edge. One last thing, she said, in a steady tone of voice. I didn't bring this evidence with me to humiliate anybody. I brought it because healing doesn't come from hiding the truth. It comes from exposing it, no matter how painful. Janelle leaned forward, her eyes brimming with tears, and clasped Meri's hand. Christine followed suit, her voice trembling to a whisper. Thank you for finally saying what we all lived through. Robyn looked away, her expression unyielding, caught between fear and anger. Kody slumped back in his chair, defeated not by Meri's accusation, but by Meri's certainty. The judge tapped her gavel. This session is adjourned. But as all stood, the weight of what had just been revealed lingered, as if it was a storm cloud refusing to drift away. Meri didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply gathered her folders, held them close, and walked out. Not as the wife who'd been pushed aside, but as the woman who finally, undeniably, reclaimed her voice. A voice which would reshape everything still to come. /P. The hallway outside the courtroom felt like entering a different world. Quieter, colder, yet humming beneath the surface with tension. Reporters lined the walls, their cameras flashing like lightning across glass. But Meri didn't slow down. She walked right past them, her folders clutched firmly into her chest, her heels echoing sharply against the marble floor. Christine and Janelle hurried up alongside her, shaken but relieved, and the energy between the three women, it felt different now, stronger, united, almost like the family they once tried so hard to be. The courtroom doors burst open behind them. Kody, is it true? Did you hide the money? Were the wives cut out on purpose? Did Robyn manage a secret trust? Voices of the reporters collided like a storm. And there he was, Kody Brown, shoulders tensed, hair mussed, desperately clinging to the last fragments of public charm. He forced a smile, raising both hands, as if he could placate chaos with a gesture. No comment, he said, his voice strained. Behind him came Robyn, her face puffy and streaked from crying, clutching his arm tightly. But the instant she saw the cameras, her sobbing ceased. Her face changed, frail, miserable, imploring. Exactly the image she wanted the world to see. But Meri didn't turn around. She pushed forward until they reached a quieter alcove near the elevators. That's where Christine finally spoke, her voice breaking. "Meri, I had no idea it was this bad." Meri came to a stop, her breathing trembling as she turned to face them. The weight of the last decade, the secrets, the humiliation, the guilt, sat in her eyes like shadows. "You weren't supposed to know," she whispered. "None of us were." That was the whole point. Janelle swallowed hard, shaking her head. "I should have seen it. I should have paid more attention. All those times he told me I didn't need to worry about the finances. I believed him." "He made sure we all believed him," Meri said softly. "That's how control works." Before they could say any more, the elevator dinged, the doors sliding open with a metallic chime that felt somehow symbolic. Christine gave Meri a gentle push. "You go first. You need a minute alone." Meri nodded and stepped inside. The doors closed, muffling the chaos outside. As the elevator went down, Meri let out a long, shaky breath and closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Vindication. But not the petty, vengeful kind. It was the vindication of someone gaslit into silence, finally reclaiming her truth. The vindication of a woman who had fought with tooth and bone for her family, only to realize that the battle was never hers to win, because the enemy wasn't circumstance. It was the man she once trusted most. As the elevator stopped on the ground floor, she stepped out into the glass-bright lobby. A few more reporters spotted her at once and converged. "Meri, can you confirm the trust account?" "Meri, you think Robyn orchestrated those financial decisions? Do you intend filing a civil case? Meri, is this the final break with the Brown family?" She froze, questions firing at her like bullets. And then, something unexpected happened. A woman stepped in front of Meri defensively, blocking the cameras with her body. It was Annie, one of the producers from the early seasons of Sister Wives. Someone who had seen the good, the bad, and all the hidden fractures behind the scenes. "That's enough," Annie said sharply. "Give her space." The reporters drew back, but not out of respect. It was because Annie's voice carried an authority they recognized. Meri's shoulders relaxed a little. "Thank you," she whispered. Annie nodded subtly. "You don't owe them anything today. Just get where you need to go. I'll walk you to your car." They made their way slowly towards the exit. But the moment the glass doors slid open into the cold Nevada air, Meri stopped. Her eyes drifted upward to the bright, cloudless sky. It felt too peaceful for the storm brewing around her. "Are you okay?" asked Annie. "I don't know," Meri answered honestly. But Annie looked at her, truly looked at her, and said, "You're stronger than he ever allowed you to believe." Those words struck deeper than she anticipated, because they were true. Meanwhile, upstairs, complete pandemonium reigned. Cameras and microphones hemmed Kody in on all sides. The speech he had honed for every argument, every interview, every deflection wasn't working today. For the first time, the public wasn't buying it. "Look, the situation is complicated," he said, running a hand through his hair. "These women don't understand the pressures of managing." "These women?" Christine repeated from down the hall. Her face hardened as she came into view. "We were your wives. We built everything with you. Don't reduce us to these women. Kody, would you like to respond? Flash, flash, flash. Kody, would you like to respond? He visibly flinched at that question. That email was taken out of context. Christine shot back. There's no context that makes that acceptable. Robyn tugged at his sleeve. Let's go, Kody. They're twisting everything. Just walk. But he didn't walk. He froze. Because down the hall, behind Christine, Janelle was approaching slowly. Her posture calm, but her eyes fierce. She stopped beside Christine, and together the two women faced him. Kody, Janelle spoke quietly. This didn't have to happen. You could have told the truth years ago. You could have respected us. You could have communicated with us like adults. But you didn't. His voice cracked. I was doing what I thought was best for the family. Janelle shook her head. No, you were doing what was best for you. Robyn came forward, her voice trembling theatrically. Why are you punishing us? Why are you making this about money and betrayal? We tried so hard to keep the family together. Christine folded her arms. You kept the family together by isolating everyone else? By becoming the gatekeeper between us and Kody? That's not unity. That's control. Robyn's lips had trembled, but her eyes had flashed with something unsaid, something defensive, territorial. The whole thing is being blown out of proportion, Kody finally snapped. Christine shot back immediately. The only thing blown out of proportion is your ego. The reporters roared. Even the bailiff tried not to smirk. Downstairs at last, Meri reached her car. She set the folders on the passenger seat and laid her hands on the wheel. The weight of it all, years of pain, the courtroom confrontation, the public explosion, settled quietly around her. For a moment, she felt the sting of tears. But she didn't cry. Not out of weakness, but because she didn't need tears anymore. She wasn't broken. She wasn't silenced. She wasn't disposable. A new thought began to form in her mind, one she hadn't dared to think before. Maybe this is the beginning of my real life. Not the life she lived, trying to prove herself. Not the life built on someone else's rules. Not the life where love was conditional, approval withheld, her worth determined by a man's changing moods. A life where she finally stood alone, but not lonely. Stronger, clearer, free. And as she turned the key, one final realization washed over her. That wasn't the end of the courtroom battle. The air felt colder, heavier, back in the courtroom, as if the walls themselves sensed that the truth was only half revealed, and the rest was about to explode. The judge pushed his glasses back and scanned the room over the rim of them, looking quite stern. Storms weren't forecast for today, but he was in it neck deep. Kody and Robyn sat together, speaking urgently in hushed tones. Robyn's hands were shaking. Kody kept rubbing his temples, his eyes red from stress. Across the aisle, Christine and Janelle sat shoulder to shoulder, wordless but unyielding. The bond between them was a shield that radiated throughout the room. But the chair beside them, Meri's chair, was still empty. The judge tapped his pen lightly. Where is Mrs. Brown? Christine leaned forward. Your Honor, she'll be here in just a moment. Almost on cue, the doors opened. Meri walked in, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stepped a tall man in a charcoal gray suit, carrying a locked briefcase. He had calm eyes and a measured stride, the confidence of a man who'd spent his life dismantling lies, one page at a time. Whispers erupted immediately. Is that her attorney? Why does he have a secure case? Is this new evidence? But the only one who really reacted was Kody. He stiffened. Then his eyes narrowed, like he recognized the man, and that recognition terrified him. Robyn grabbed his arm. "Kody, what is it? Who is that?" But he didn't answer. Meri and the man sat down. The room was electric, charged, as if a fuse had been lit somewhere, quietly, invisibly, and nobody knew how near the explosion. The judge cleared his throat. "Mrs. Brown, we were just waiting on you." Meri nodded. "I'm ready now, Your Honor." The man beside her set the briefcase down gently on the table, clicked it open, and pulled out a stack of sealed folders. A ripple of tension moved across the room. Kody swallowed hard. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "She's making a show of this." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Brown, if you cannot remain respectful, I will have you removed." Robyn squeezed his hand under the table. "Please, Kody, don't make this worse." But it was already worse, and everybody could feel that. The judge turned to Meri's attorney, now known to the court as Attorney Roland Pierce. "Mr. Pierce, you have new evidence." "Yes, Your Honor," Pierce said, his tone smooth and even. "Evidence that directly supports testimony previously given." Kody slammed a hand on the table. "This is an ambush." "Mr. Brown," said the judge sharply, "that's your final warning." But Kody wasn't listening. His gaze was fastened intently on Pierce. "You can't trust anything he says." And then the line that froze the whole room in place. "You know exactly why he's here, Kody," Meri said quietly. "You hired him yourself, years ago." There were gasps. The judge's eyes widened. "Is this true?" Pierce responded calmly. "Yes, Your Honor. I represented Mr. Brown in a private family negotiation 8 years ago, specifically regarding property transfers and marital trust accounts." All eyes snapped to Kody. He looked cornered, panicked, almost feral. "That was confidential," he barked. Pierce nodded, "and I have honored that confidentiality, until now. But since Mrs. Brown is presenting evidence that contradicts the financial disclosures currently on record, and since my previous involvement ties directly to those accounts, I am legally permitted to clarify my role." Kody's voice cracked. This is betrayal." Christine let out a short, humorless laugh. "Kody, betrayal is what you've been doing to us for a decade." Robyn's lower lip trembled. "They're twisting everything. Kody, they're attacking us." "Mrs. Brown," said the judge sternly to Robyn, "you will have your chance to speak later. For now, remain silent." Robyn looked down, her cheeks stained by tears. But, for the first time, no one comforted her. Not even Kody. Pierce pulled out a document and put it on the table for the judge. "This is the original trust outline Mr. Brown drafted with me. The one he claimed he never created." The judge read over the first page, his eyebrows rising higher with each line. "This trust lists only Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown as beneficiaries," Pierce said. "Contrary to his statements today, the other wives were intentionally excluded from the long-term financial plan." Janelle gasped. Christine's eyes welled with tears. Anger, not sorrow. "It wasn't an accident," he continued. "It wasn't miscommunication. It was deliberate." The judge looked at Kody. "Mr. Brown, would you like to respond?" For the first time, Kody seemed speechless. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, but no words came out. Robyn leaned in close to him, her whisper frantic. "Say something. Say something, Kody." But he wasn't able to, because the truth unraveled faster than he could spin lies. Then Pierce pulled out a second document. "This, Your Honor, is a series of internal bank transfers conducted over 5 years." He handed copies to the court clerk, who distributed them. Each transfer, said Pierce, took money from the family account, money contributed by all wives, and rerouted it into the trust Mr. Brown shared solely with Mrs. Robyn Brown. Christine whispered, "I knew it. I knew something was off." Janelle put a hand over her chest as if steadying her heartbeat. All those nights I argued with him about budgets, while he was funneling money away. The judge looked at Kody again. "Mr. Brown, this is disturbing. Do you have anything to say?" Kody's voice cracked. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." "Then how was it supposed to be?" Christine demanded sharply. "Because from where we're sitting, it looks like you stole from your own family." Robyn wiped away tears on her cheeks. "He did it to protect us. He did it because you all kept leaving. We had to build a future." Janelle cut her off. "We left because he abandoned us." The courtroom buzzed. Suffocating tension clung to the air like smoke. Meri spoke up at last, her voice low but razor-sharp. "Kody, do you remember what you told me 8 years ago, when you thought I was the weakest one? You said, 'Meri, you'll always be taken care of. You're my first wife. Trust me.'" A single tear slid down her cheek, but her voice didn't waver. "And all that time, you were building a future without me." The room fell silent. Not the peaceful type, the type that comes just before thunder. Then Pierce did something unexpected. He pushed a final sealed envelope across the table toward the judge. "Your Honor, this envelope contains the results of a DNA test performed 3 months ago. It was submitted anonymously, but we verified its source." The judge frowned. "A DNA test? How is that relevant?" The next words Pierce uttered dropped like a bomb. "It concerns the paternity of one of the children listed in Mr. Brown's legal records." Every heartbeat in the room was frozen in time. Kody's face went white, ghost white. Robyn grasped his arm. "Kody, what is that? What did you do?" But he didn't answer, because he knew. He knew exactly what was in that envelope. "Meri," Christine whispered, "what is this?" Meri slowly shook her head. "This isn't from me." The judge hesitated, then carefully opened the envelope. He pulled out the report, flipped through the pages. Then he stopped, eyes widening, jaw tightening. "Your Honor?" Pierce asked softly. The judge slowly looked up. And when he finally spoke, his voice was grave. "According to this test, the child in question is not biologically Mr. Kody Brown's." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, cries. Robyn froze, the color having been drained from her face. Kody pushed his chair back violently, standing up, shouting, "That's a lie! That is a lie!" The bailiff stepped forward. "Sir, sit down." Robyn muttered one word under her breath, shaking uncontrollably. "No." But the judge wasn't finished. "This DNA test indicates the father is someone else entirely, and given the timeline, this raises serious questions." Kody fell back into his seat, as if his knees had given out. Christine clamped her hand over her mouth. Janelle stared in shock. Meri's eyes filled with a complicated mix of vindication, heartbreak, and horror. But in the midst of all the chaos, Pierce leaned forward and said quietly, "Your Honor, I think it's time this court hears the full truth." And everything went silent once more, the sort of silence that feels like fate holding its breath. Chaos soaked into the courtroom like a flood. Voices overlapped one another. Shocked gasps, frantic whispers, angry murmurs, crashing together as if the walls themselves were shaking beneath the weight of truth. But in the midst of the storm, Robyn sat still, frozen. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, the knuckles white, her eyes riveted to the judge, as if she could will his words back into silence. Kody, on the other hand, was unraveling. He shot up again. "This is fabricated. This is illegal. You can't." "Mr. Brown," the judge snapped, "sit down." For the first time in decades of knowing him, Kody followed an order without debating it. He sank into his chair, shaken, chest heaving, as if unable to pull enough oxygen into his lungs. Christine leaned forward slightly. Not victorious, not smug, just stunned. Janelle looked from Robyn to Kody with eyes that held both heartbreak and disbelief. They had guessed betrayal, suspected manipulation. But this, none of us expected this. Meri watched quietly too, her hands upon the sealed folder before her, the same one that started this whole unraveling. But her face was unreadable. Not joy, not shock, not even anger. Just a deep, tired ache, the kind that comes from carrying the truth alone far too long. The judge cleared his throat and called for order to be restored. "Everyone needs to remain calm. This court will not tolerate." Because never, not once in all their years, had they seen Robyn Brown pull away from Kody. He froze, his arms suspended awkwardly between them. "Robyn?" he whispered. She didn't look at him. She only cried harder, her shoulders trembling, her fingers digging into her scalp. Finally, she choked out, barely audible. "I told him not to do this." The entire courtroom froze. Pierce raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Brown, are you saying you knew all about this?" Robyn shook her head hard, as if to force words physically away. No, I didn't want this." Kody grasped her wrist. "Don't say another word." She jerked her hand away. "Why? Because you said you'd handle it. Because you promised no one would ever find out." The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown, please explain what you mean." Kody slammed his fist on the table. "Stop. You don't understand." The bailiff took a step forward. Pierce remained calm, watching the unraveling with the patience of one who knew that truth always surfaces eventually. Robyn wiped her face, her chest rising and falling rapidly as her voice shook. He told me it wasn't a big deal, that it didn't matter because the family was falling apart anyway. He said no one would question anything." Kody hissed, "Robyn, stop talking." She finally turned her head, slowly, and looked directly at him. Her expression wasn't fear. It was anger. "You ruined my life," she whispered. Gasps rippled like a wave. Kody recoiled, as if she had slapped him. "What are you saying? Everything I did for you, for us." Christine mumbled under her breath. "Here it comes." Robyn straightened her spine, still shaking, but no longer hiding. "This wasn't supposed to go public," she said, her voice cracking. "I begged him not to do the test. I begged him to let it go." "Mrs. Brown," the judge broke in softly, but clearly firmly, "are you admitting you knew the child's paternity was unclear?" The room fell deathly still. Robyn's lips trembled. And then she nodded. A soft, broken nod. The sound that followed, the collective inhale of the gallery, felt like the courtroom was sucking in its own breath. Kody looked like he'd been punched. "You told me. You said. We agreed." "I never agreed," Robyn cried. "You decided. You made everything about you. You always do." Christine leaned in towards Janelle and whispered, "Is this real life?" "I think hell just froze over," Janelle whispered back. But the judge wasn't done. "Mrs. Brown," he said carefully, You have to explain the situation clearly. Robyn closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. It was before our marriage was legal, before the adoption, before everything got so tangled. I made a mistake. I told Kody it would destroy the family if anybody found out. And instead of helping me fix it, he told me we'd bury it. She took in a shaking breath. He said we'd build a new life, start over, and the truth would never matter. The judge's voice turned grave. So, Mr. Brown has been knowingly misrepresenting legal parentage for several years. Kody leaped to his feet. No, I was protecting my family. I was doing what any man would do. Sit down, Mr. Brown. He didn't listen. He pointed at the wives. They wanted the family destroyed. They tore us apart. I had to protect something sacred. Christine stood, unable to stay silent. You destroyed the family, not us. Not divorce, not distance. You. Janelle stood as well. We trusted you with our lives, our homes, our futures. And this is what you did in the dark. For the first time in his life, Kody Brown looked genuinely afraid. Not angry, not defensive, afraid. Because the one thing he valued more than anything, control, was slipping through his fingers faster than he could claw it back. Pierce addressed the judge. Your Honor, in light of this revelation, I so move that we proceed with a comprehensive audit of Mr. Brown's financial and legal activities during his marriages. We request an immediate freeze of disputed assets and a temporary injunction against Mr. Brown from transferring any more funds. The judge nodded slowly. Given the evidence presented today, that request is reasonable. Kody gasped. No, please, you can't. The judge cut him off. Mr. Brown, sit down before I have you escorted out. Robyn leaned forward, whispering fiercely, This is your fault. All of it. He stared at her, eyes wide with betrayal. How can you say that, after everything I sacrificed for you? She whispered so softly that only he could hear. You didn't sacrifice. You controlled. And now everyone knows. It was like watching a dam crack open. The judge slammed his gavel once. This court is adjourned until 2 weeks hence. Further investigation will determine the next steps. In the meantime, all parties shall refrain from discussing case details publicly. He paused. And Mr. Brown, I strongly advise you to obtain new counsel. Court adjourned, the bailiff announced. The room erupted again. Papers shuffled. Reporters whispered urgently. People scrambled toward the hall. Christine turned to Meri. Are you okay? Meri took a deep breath. I think, for the first time in years, yes. Janelle hugged her. You did the right thing. Even if it was painful. Meri stared toward the defense table, where Kody stood frozen, utterly still, staring at nothing. As if he finally realized his kingdom had fallen, not from an attack, but from his own choices. And Robyn remained seated, head down, shoulders shaking, no longer the sheltered darling, but an exposed, vulnerable woman facing consequences she never thought would reach her. As Christine, Janelle, and Meri made their way to the exit together, united for the first time in a long time. Christine whispered, Do you think this is the end? Meri shook her head. No, this is the beginning. And she was right. For outside the courtroom, a phalanx of reporters waited, ready to capture the fallout of a family that had finally cracked open. And the world was watching. Before stepping into the glare of the cameras, Meri turned to Christine and Janelle. When this goes public, she said quietly, people are gonna take sides. Christine smirked. Let them. Janelle nodded. We know the truth now. And that's enough. Meri exhaled and stepped forward. Flash, flash, flash. Microphones shot toward her. The questions came from all directions, but Meri never flinched. She looked directly into the nearest camera and said, "Today wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, and the truth always comes out." Then she walked away, her heart lighter than it had been in decades. But as the automatic doors slid open,